Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking a story that is, honestly, it's one of the most delightful, chaotic, and just unexpectedly poignant collisions of worlds I have ever come across.
It really is something special.
I want you to start by just picturing a specific kind of person. I think we all know someone like this. The person who gets a genuine, almost, I don't know, a spiritual sense of calm from a well-structured checklist.
The list is everything.
Exactly. Someone who worries about, the fluctuating price of root vegetables. The book specifically mentions parsnips, and whose idea of a high-stakes afternoon is trying to get a deworming pill down a cat's throat without losing a finger.
That is a very specific, very grounded energy. It's the kind of person who keeps the world turning while, everyone else is panicking about bigger things.
Right. Now take that wholesome checklist-loving woman, someone whose face is literally described by other characters as looking like it belongs on a cookie tin.
I love that description.
It's perfect. And drop her directly into the blast zone of a high-stakes magical war. And not just any war, one involving the most notorious dark mage in history. We are talking about Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett.
This text is just so fascinating because it operates on this incredible friction between, well, the mundane and the mythic. Usually in a fantasy story, the protagonist is, awestruck by magic. They want in. They want to be part of that world.
Of course. That's the whole point.
But here you have Agnes Aubert, who views magic the way you or I might view, like, a ruptured sewage line. It's messy, it's expensive, it destroys property values, and it is actively ruining her day.
It is a massive inconvenience. And stuck right in the middle of this collision is Agnes, who just wants to keep her 52 cats warm. So today we're going to break down how an ordinary person navigates a world where magic isn't just wondrous, it's illegal, it's dangerous, and it's incredibly inconvenient.
And we really need to set the scene here because the setting is a character in and of itself. We are in an alternate version of Montreal, and it feels historical. You've got the trams, the cobblestones, the really harsh winters, but it is plagued by magicians.
Plagued is the right word.
It is. I'm using it deliberately. The public sentiment isn't, ooh, a magic show. It's goddamn magicians.
Right. That's literally a quote from a character. So let's jump right into our first section, the housing crisis and the goddamn magicians. Because this whole story, it doesn't kick off with a spell or a prophecy. It starts with an eviction.
It does. A very, very strange eviction. It's not because she missed rent or anything normal like that. Agnes is running her charity, Les Amis de Chat, or Cat Friends, out of this little shop on Rue Saint-Rosine. And the reason she has to leave is that a magical duel happened right outside her front door.
A literal duel.
Right.
The text describes a lunar crater about 10 feet wide just outside her shop. The cobblestones are peeled back like they melted.
It's just total destruction. And her landlord, Richard, is actually pretty nice about it at first. She's letting Agnes stay for a bit. But the shop has a missing wall.
Missing wall. In Montreal. In winter.
Which is, it's a fatal flaw. The text describes winter as a great beast that leaves white fur on the windowsills. It's such a visceral image. You cannot run a shelter for 52 cats with a missing wall when the snow is coming down. The cold itself is an antagonist in this story, just as much as any dark wizard.
So Agnes is out there. She's hitting the pavement, trying to find a new place. And this is where we really see the public sentiment, the prejudice against magic. She meets this one prospective landlord, M. Levasseur. And he isn't just saying no pets. He is ranting about the duel.
He just goes off on her goddamn magicians dueling in broad daylight. It really highlights that for the average citizen, magic is just a nuisance. It destroys infrastructure. Yes, it endangers lives, but mostly it disrupts commerce. It's a practical problem.
He complains that the police, they rarely even catch the people who do it. It creates this sense of, urban lawlessness, where you could be walking to the bakery and suddenly get caught in a crossfire of fireballs.
And Agnes is just sitting there trying to look like a seasoned businesswoman, as the book says, but you can tell she's just desperate. She has 52 cats. 52, you can't just rent a room, you need a whole facility.
It's an institution.
It is. And she calls them the orphans. And the text gives us such vivid little personalities for these cats. They aren't just background noise or props. They are what ground Agnes. They are the entire reason she endures everything that happens later.
Oh, absolutely. If she didn't have the cats, she could just find a small room in a boarding house and be safe. But the cats force her to take these enormous risks.
They do. And we have to talk about some of them. The author clearly knows cats because these little portraits are perfect.
Let's start with the king. His Majesty.
The tyrant.
He's this huge black cat with one single white boot. And he just terrorizes everyone. He steals food from the kittens. He's essentially a bully. But, and this is the part that just breaks my heart, he loved Agnes's late husband, Robin.
That detail is so crucial for understanding Agnes. Robin died 2 years before the story starts, and the text mentions that the night Robin died, His Majesty refused to sleep. He just paced by the door, waiting for him to come home.
Oh, that's brutal.
It is. And now he sleeps on Robin's pillow. It's this direct physical connection to her grief. It's where she tolerates his awful behavior. He is a living link to the husband she lost. She can't get rid of him.
No way. And then there's Banshee.
Oh, poor Banshee, the voiceless tabby. She opens her mouth to scream, but no sound ever comes out. The book describes her as having a complete lack of sense.
She just panics constantly.
All the time. In a way, she represents that pure, chaotic anxiety that Agnes herself is trying so hard to suppress.
And Thoreau, the complete opposite. The elderly gray cat who is just very genteel and polite and minds his own business.
Yeah. You get this whole spectrum of personalities. They are her family. But trying to rent a shop for this family is an absolute nightmare. Emma Vasseur, the landlord, he's all smiles until he finds out what the charity is actually for.
He thinks she's, what, knitting sweaters for orphans or something socially acceptable?
Right. And when she finally admits it's cats, the shift is immediate. He physically shoos her out the door. He's horrified. He calls them unsanitary little things.
It just shows how marginalized Agnes is. To the rest of the world, she's a crazy cat lady, even though she sees herself as running a serious, professional rescue operation.
And this brings us to the dynamic with her sister, Elise. Because Agnes is the honest one, right? She's the moral compass. But Elise is something else.
Elise is the operator. She's a political operator, specifically. She's the campaign manager for her husband, Gabriel, who is a city councilor. She gets optics. She is charming. And she lies with what the text calls native flair.
She's so good at it. She just invents these fake businesses to try and trick landlords. At one point, she tells a landlord they run a typing service.
A typing service? I mean, who has a typing service anymore? While Agnes is standing right there, her stomach is growling, and she's just feeling sick with guilt.
It really establishes Agnes's moral rigidity. She is terrible at lying. She has what a neighbor, Oksana, later calls a cookie tin face.
Yes. She looks too wholesome, too earnest. She looks exactly like the woman painted on a tin of Danish butter cookies. She can't pull off the deception, which makes her situation that much more desperate.
But desperation, it forces your hand. And that brings us to section 2, the Too Good to Be True shop on Rue des Hirondelles.
The street of swallows.
Exactly. Agnes keeps finding herself drawn to this street. It's quaint, it's tucked away, and she finds a shop that looks vacant. And this is where she meets Yannick Abrams.
Oh, Yannick.
Yannick is such a great character because he is so obviously something. He's an archetype we all recognize. The nervous, twitchy minion. He's young, he's jumpy, and when Agnes knocks on the door, he is practically begging her to rent the place.
It's an immediate red flag.
Yeah.
He offers this massive, opulent space. We're talking medieval flagstones, arched windows, more than enough room for 52 cats for half the price of a slum.
Half the price. That's red flag number 1 right there.
And then he starts making all these excuses for everything. There's this massive stone oven built into the wall. He says, oh, the previous tenant was a baker. He left, suddenly, left his pies in the window.
And then in the next breath, he says, another tenant was a scarf importer. And the place is just full of expensive scarves thrown everywhere. It's helter-skelter, like it's been ransacked, not packed up.
Yannick is just a terrible liar. It's actually kind of funny because he's trying to cover up these huge magical crimes with really mundane business failures.
He's not convincing at all. And then he gets to the basement. He tells her, don't go in the basement. It's dangerous. Mold. Massive rats.
And Agnes immediately, her first thought is ghosts.
Right. She thinks the place is haunted. And she's okay with that. That is how desperate she is. She's literally like, ghosts, fine. As long as the rent is cheap and the ghosts don't have cat allergies, we're good.
This is that theme of willful ignorance we talked about. Agnes is smart. She sees all the red flags. But she is actively choosing to rationalize them because the alternative is homelessness for her and the cats.
It's a cost-benefit analysis. Ghosts versus freezing to death in a Montreal winter. She'll take the ghosts every time.
But the neighbors, they're not so subtle. She goes next door to this little bookstore run by a woman named Oksana. and Oksana basically tells her to run for her life.
Oksana is the voice of the neighborhood. She's seen things. She takes one look at Agnes and she drops that cookie tin line. She says, "You look like the woman on the cookie tin."
Meaning you are too innocent for this street. You are lamb chops walking into a lion's den.
Exactly. And she asks if Agnes knows who the landlord really is. And she mentions Havelock Renard, the Witch King.
She even says, rumor has it he turns into a black cat. She is trying so hard to warn Agnes that she is stepping into the literal lair of a monster.
And Agnes just deflects. She says, "Oh, I despise magicians." She completely convinces herself that maybe it was a magic shop in the past, but the magician is long gone now.
She's clinging to that hope.
Yeah.
He's probably moved on. Evil wizards don't stick around in rent-controlled shops. It's such a funny, desperate rationalization.
So she moves in. Elise helps her. They move all 52 cats across the city in this chaotic caravan. And for about a week, nothing happens.
Oh, not nothing. Which brings us to section 3, the oddities of residency. The shop is weird.
It is so weird. The sensory details the author uses here are just beautiful. The big stone oven smells like fresh bread or sometimes chocolate in the mornings, even though it's cold stone. The pipes clank when no one is using the water. It's like the shop itself has a personality or a memory.
And the visitors. These really eccentric, wealthy-looking people who just walk in off the street, completely ignore Agnes, and go straight through the trap door into the basement.
There's one man in an emerald cloak, a nervous woman clutching a briefcase. It is, for all intents and purposes, a magical speakeasy running out of her basement.
And Agnes's strategy is just aggressive indifference. A neighbor is a neighbor. She decides that as long as they don't bother the cats, she will not bother them.
It is the ultimate mind-your-own-business urban survival strategy. But then the police show up. Detective Laurent Rousset.
Now, Laurent is an interesting character. He's handsome, he's clearly suspicious of the whole setup, but he has a major soft spot for cats, specifically a black cat named Lynx.
Yes. Lynx attacks his coat, just claws all over it, and then suddenly snuggles up on his shoulder and starts purring. And Laurent is completely charmed by it.
It's a great moment. But he's there on business. He's asking these pointed questions about the landlord. Have you met him? Do you know this Yannick fellow?
And Agnes deflects with what she calls flirtatious awkwardness. She invites him for coffee just to make him leave and then immediately panics because she thinks she accidentally asked him out on a date. It's such a human, relatable moment in the middle of all this supernatural tension.
It works, though. He leaves, for now. But the pressure is building. Agnes knows something is up. She realizes the landlord never left. Someone is living in that basement.
And that tension finally snaps in section 4, the confrontation.
It's a snowy night. Agnes is asleep upstairs. And Banshee, the silent screaming cat, wakes her up. Agnes goes downstairs and finds a woman in the shop.
Valerie. And she's holding Thoreau, the sweet, elderly gray cat.
This scene is terrifying. Valerie is described as being very elegant, wearing a red cloak and a lot of rings. And she's looking for someone she calls Locke.
She knows he's there. She can sense him. And when Agnes tries to play dumb, Valerie just stops playing nice. She starts tearing the shop apart.
Telekinetically, the filing cabinets just fly across the room and crash into the wall. The windows shatter. She's trying to summon him, to force him out by destroying his property. And it works.
The trapdoor flies open, and first we see the monster. A creature made of shadow, all teeth and claws. It emerges from the basement, and Agnes is just frozen with terror.
But then, the man appears. And this is the great subversion of the whole story. We're expecting the Witch King, this terrifying figure in black armor. Instead, we get a disheveled man in navy blue pajamas.
With messy hair, he's barefoot. He looks, the book says, like a boy play-acting as a pirate. But the power radiating off him is absolutely real.
This is Havelock Renard, the most dangerous mage in history. And his first reaction is to complain that Valerie woke him up from a nap.
The battle that follows gives us a brilliant look at the magic system. I want to pause here and really dig into the mechanics of it because it's really unique. Magic in this world is bound to objects. They're called artifacts. Rings, coins, books. You don't just wave a wand and say a word. You have to use a vessel for the power.
Valerie uses lightning that comes from one of her rings.
Right. And Havelock, he uses a coin to cast a counterspell of empathy.
A counterspell of empathy. I love that so much.
It's such a fascinating detail, isn't it? He hits her with empathy to bungle her incantation. If you think about magic requiring intense focus and intent, then flooding your opponent with your own emotions, or just a surge of raw feeling, it completely breaks that concentration. It suggests he's not just powerful, he's clever, he fights sideways, he uses psychology as a weapon.
But Valerie isn't done yet. She pulls out this little piece of paper that's been folded into a bird. It looks like a receipt. And she summons a literal dragon.
An emerald, an obsidian dragon with eyes of fire. It completely fills the room, and then it eats Havelock.
I honestly gasped at this part. It just eats him whole. But then it bursts apart into a shower of jewels and glass. It was an illusion? Or maybe he destroyed it from the inside.
And then it rains these little burnt paper birds. Agnes picks one up off the floor and realizes it's a receipt for parsnips, 8 cents.
It's so absurd. She's in total shock, just fixating on the price of parsnips, while two demigods are fighting in her living room. It grounds the horror in the most banal detail possible.
It's a reminder that magicians have to buy vegetables, too.
Havelock ends the fight by using another coin to cast a wind spell that just blasts Valerie out of the shop. He launches her into the snowy night.
And then the dust settles, and we get to see the true personality of Havelock Renard. He's arrogant, of course, but he's also petty, he's childish, and he's allergic to cats.
That is my single favorite detail in the entire book. The great and terrible Witch King is allergic to cats. He sees the shelter for the first time, and he is just horrified. He says, "You filled my shop with cats. Vermin."
He's so offended, he thought Yannick rented it to some respectable business. He calls them 10-pound flea collectors.
And Agnes. She doesn't cower. She yells right back at him. She accuses him of endangering her cats. She actually picks up the magical coins from the floor and starts throwing them at him.
Can you imagine? She's throwing priceless magical artifacts at the most powerful wizard in the world, like they're loose change, and he's just dodging them, sneezing and threatening to put her to sleep.
It's this incredible clash of the domestic and the epic. It completely strips away his myth. He's not a god. He's just a bad roommate with a serious sinus problem.
But the danger isn't over. Not by a long shot. Havelock realizes Valerie will be back. Which leads us to Section 5, the Great Relocation.
He tells Agnes he has to move the shop. And he doesn't mean pack up boxes and call a moving truck. He means move the shop, spatially.
The description of the spell is so visceral, a monumental tearing sound. And Agnes feels a sensation like a boulder-sized boot pressed into mud.
That description implies that space in this magical world is viscous, it's thick, it has texture, and moving through it unnaturally hurts. It's not a clean, simple blink and you're there kind of teleport. It's a violent tearing of the fabric of reality.
And when the world stops spinning, they are still in the shop. The interior is exactly the same, but the view outside the window has completely changed. They're on Rue Saint-Sophie, downtown Montreal.
In the financial district, right between a high-end restaurant, Le Troisseur, and the main city bank.
It's completely absurd. Agnes steps outside in her socks and sees all these business people in suits going into the bank. He has literally transported the interior of the building into a different shell in a completely different part of the city.
And he forgot the exterior walls. He just moved the inside.
It was a rush job. He actually says, "I didn't bring the exterior walls. The neighbors would have noticed."
Which implies that if you were to walk into this shop from the street, you'd cross from a 1920s brick facade into a centuries-old stone interior. It's a spatial anomaly. It's bizarre.
And Agnes is understandably furious. She's like, "What about the police? What about my reputation? I have zoning permits for the other address."
She's worried about municipal bureaucracy.
While Havelock is just muttering about compass spells and placing pebbles on the windowsills to stabilize the magic, he is completely unbothered by her panic. He's focused on the arcane mechanics, while she's focused on the practical reality of their situation.
Until the police knock on the door.
And that takes us to Section 6, the police raid. This is where the story just leans into this incredible sitcom energy.
It really does. It's Detective Laurent. He tracked the explosion sound, the sonic boom of the teleportation skill, to their new location. Magic leaves a footprint.
Havelock's first instinct is to just ignore them. He says Yannick usually deals with the police, but they're about to kick the door in.
So Agnes has to act. She opens the door, and she spins this incredible out-of-thin-air lie. She claims this is a second location for the shelter.
She says, "Oh yes, we've expanded. This branch is for veterinary cases." It's brilliant improv under pressure.
But there's a huge problem. Laurent sees the cats.
Yeah.
And he recognizes them. He specifically points out Lynx and Thoreau. He just saw these exact cats at the other shop maybe an hour ago.
So Havelock has to help. He turns invisible, and he's standing right behind Agnes, breathing down her neck.
The intimacy of that moment is so creepy. Agnes describes feeling the creases in her blouse where his invisible hand is resting on her shoulder, and he's whispering instructions in her ear.
And he casts illusions on the cats to disguise them.
This part is hilarious. He turns the orange cats into cats with eye patches.
Eye patches? Why eye patches?
Who knows? It's panic casting. He's just throwing random disguises out there. And he turns Thoreau, the simple gray cat, into a bright red cat.
So Agnes has to invent a breed on the spot. She calls it a Danish foxcoat.
A rare Danish foxcoat, yes.
Yeah.
And the female officer with Laurent totally buys it. She's like, oh, I've never seen a red cat before. How lovely.
It works. It speaks to the power of just saying something with confidence, you know. Agnes sells the lie, and the officer accepts it. The police leave, though Laurent is clearly still suspicious. But it saves them for the moment.
But now Agnes is really stuck. She's in a magically relocated shop, hiding with a fugitive wizard with 52 magically disguised cats. And she demands answers. Which brings us to Section 7, the Rivenwood and the why.
We finally get the real motivation. Why did Valerie attack?
It's all about a book.
Specifically, a book by an author named Alice Vortigern, who was a 17th century mage. Valerie believes this book contains a spell for time travel.
Time travel. So she wants to go back and change the past.
Or, as Havelock explains it, she wants to retrieve spells from Vortigern's library before it burned down. Spells for immortality, immense power, that sort of thing.
And Havelock claims the book is a myth. He says he doesn't have it.
But Valerie is convinced he does. And to protect the shop from her next attack, Havelock needs more power. He needs to recharge. So he introduces Agnes to the source of all magic, the Rivenwood.
This description is so haunting. He opens a door in the middle of the shop, and it's not a wooden door, it's just a gash in the air.
And beyond it is a forest. Ancient trees, strange white flowers, old stone ruins. It's described as being both beautiful and deeply terrifying.
Havelock explains the concept of the phantoms. The Rivenwood is divided into depths, and the deeper you go, the stronger and darker the magic gets.
And the higher the cost. He says, and I'm quoting here, "No one has ever ventured to the fifth fathom. Likely it would tear a magician apart. We wouldn't return as ourselves, but as something else."
That implies that magic isn't just a tool, it's a corrupting force. It comes with this terrible price. It eats away at your humanity.
And you can see that corruption in Havelock himself. Agnes notes that he looks mismatched, like a painting created by several different artists who weren't collaborating. He's losing his own humanity to the Rivenwood.
He then dissolves into his shadow monster form and steps into the forest to gather more power, leaving Agnes completely alone. Again.
And this is the pivotal moment of the story. Her sister, Elise, arrives. She finds Agnes in this magical displaced shop, which apparently smells of ozone and pizza, and she tells Agnes to run.
She says, "Leave. He's the Witch King. He tried to end the world." She offers her a way out.
And Agnes, she refuses.
She looks at the cats. She looks at a mother cat named Clouder and her new kittens. And she realizes she can't move them again. They need stability. They need a home.
But it's more than just that. Agnes sees an opportunity. She told the police she was expanding the charity. She told them this was a second branch for veterinary cases.
So she decides to make it true. She is going to use the Witch King's resources, his massive, magically protected shop, his magic, to actually fund and expand her shelter.
It's an incredible power move. She's taking this terrifying, chaotic situation, and she is bending it to her will. She's not just surviving anymore. She's capitalizing on it.
She's checking off a box on her mental checklist. Expand shelter operations, even if the landlord is a supervillain with a cat allergy.
It's the ultimate victory of the mundane over the magical. She's just going to make it work. She's going to file the paperwork.
What an incredible story. Okay, let's take a quick breath. And when we come back, I want to unpack some of the details we skipped over, especially the nuance of that magic system and the final confrontation.
Absolutely. The details of the paper birds alone are worth another look.
We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Let's rewind to that confrontation with Valerie in Section 4. I can't stop thinking about the paper bird dragon.
It's such a stunning visual, isn't it? Valerie just pulls a simple receipt from her pocket. She folds it into a bird. She mutters a single word. And suddenly, the ceiling is descending on them.
The text describes it as having a head like a deep-sea behemoth, crystalline teeth, fire in its throat, all from a piece of paper.
And what I love about this is how perfectly it illustrates the magic system of this world. Magic isn't innate in the sense that you just snap your fingers and things happen. It's bound. You have to prepare it ahead of time. Valerie had clearly enchanted that receipt long before she walked into the shop.
And the fact that it was a receipt for parsnips. Agnes picking up one of the little burnt paper bird carcasses afterwards and seeing Panay's 8 cents. It's brilliant.
It completely grounds the horror in the banal. It's funny, yes, but it also shows that magicians use whatever is at hand. They live in our world, they buy vegetables, but they can also weaponize those everyday transactions. It reinforces this theme that magic isn't a separate reality, it's just a dangerous layer on top of our own.
Let's talk about Havelock's counter magic, too. We mentioned the coins he uses.
Right. He has this old leather pouch full of them. It feels very tactile, very physical. It's almost like he's spending magic, like currency.
And that counterspell of empathy, I'm going to go a little deeper on that. You mentioned it breaks focus, but think about the psychological implications of that.
Oh, it's profound. If you are trying to murder someone with a bolt of lightning, you have to detach yourself from their humanity. You need to see them as a target, an obstacle. By forcing Valerie to feel empathy, perhaps forcing her to feel his fear or his perspective in that moment, he makes it psychologically impossible for her to follow through with the act of violence.
It's a pacifist weapon, in a way.
In a strange way, yes. It's using connection and emotion to stop violence, which is not what you'd expect from the Witch King.
But then he gets eaten.
He does. The dragon's mouth closes over him with what the book calls a gentle snap.
That phrasing gives me shivers. A gentle snap. So understated and awful.
But then the whole construct just explodes into jewels and glass. It suggests Havelock either overloaded it with his own power or destroyed it from the inside. And when he reappears, he's just brushing little bits of paper off his pajamas?
And he says something like, that one needed more magic.
Yeah.
As if he's a food critic critiquing a poorly made dish.
It shows his arrogance, definitely, but also his detachment. He treats a duel to the death like a fascinating scientific experiment. He's analytical about the whole thing, which is probably what makes him so dangerous.
And yet, this same man is terrified of the cats.
It's the central paradox of Havelock Renard. He can fight a dragon made of paper and magic, but he hides behind the counter when His Majesty, a 10-pound house cat, walks into the room.
Let's talk about His Majesty in that scene, because the cat is completely fearless.
His Majesty is a predator at heart. He recognizes Havelock as another apex predator on his territory. He's not afraid. He's intrigued. He actually stalks Havelock around the room.
While Havelock is sneezing, just damn these cats, he's congested. It's so incredibly humanizing.
It completely strips away the myth. The Witch King is just a guy with allergies and a very messy, very sudden roommate situation. It makes him, for all his power, accessible and almost pitiable.
Right. Okay, now I want to pivot back to the Great Relocation in Section 5. The mechanics of this are just wild to me.
The way Agnes feels it, like a boulder-sized boot pressed into mud.
That is such a gross and perfect description of reality being bent out of shape.
It implies that space in this magical world has resistance. It's not empty air. Moving through it unnaturally requires immense force, and it leaves a mark.
And the visual of the new location? They're on Rue Saint-Sophie. This is the financial district of Montreal.
It's such a sharp contrast to Rue des Hirondelles, which was described as quaint and a little bit grubby and working class. Here you have the imperious facade of the Citibank. You have wealthy people in fur coats walking by.
And Agnes is standing there on the sidewalk in her socks.
It just highlights her complete and utter displacement. She doesn't belong there, but neither does the shop. Havelock has essentially grafted a medieval bakery onto a modern city block. It's an architectural anomaly.
And that leads directly to the police raid. The tension in Section 6 is just incredible.
It really is, especially because Havelock is invisible through the whole thing. Agnes can feel the creases in her blouse where his invisible hand is resting on her shoulder.
It's so creepy and intimate at the same time.
It is, and he's whispering in her ear, offer them tea. He's coaching her through the whole lie. He's the puppet master, but she's the one on stage performing for her life.
And the lie about the cats. The Danish foxcoat.
Agnes is usually such a bad liar, but in that moment, she channels her sister Elise. She just invents a rare, exotic breed out of whole cloth, and she gets away with it because the female officer wants to believe it.
The officer loves the cat. She says, I quite like this one.
It shows that even in a high-stakes police investigation, people are fundamentally distracted by cute animals. It's Agnes's accidental superpower. The cats are a shield. They disarm people. They make her seem harmless.
I also want to touch on the Rivenwood again, from Section 7. Havelock describes the forest as being too beautiful.
He says the forest is the source of all magic, and he mentions the fifth fathom.
No one has ever ventured to the fifth fathom. Likely it would tear a magician apart. We wouldn't return as ourselves, but as something else.
This creates a real sense of cosmic horror. It suggests that magic isn't just a tool you can pick up and put down. It's a corrupting force. It changes you fundamentally. It eats away at your identity.
And Havelock has clearly been changed by it. Agnes notes that he looks mismatched, like a painting by different artists.
He's losing his humanity piece by piece. And Valerie seems to notice it too. At one point in their fight, she asks him, "How much of you is even left?"
That's actually really tragic.
It is. It suggests that Havelock isn't just a simple villain. He's a victim of his own power. He's fading. He's becoming more Rivenwood than human.
And yet, Agnes stands up to him after all of this.
She calls him selfish to his face. She says, "Do you ever think of anyone besides yourself?"
And he is genuinely baffled by the question. He just says, magic is who I am.
He defines himself entirely by his power. Agnes, on the other hand, defines herself by her responsibilities, her cats, her sister, her charity. It's a fundamental clash of identities.
And you know what? Agnes wins that argument, or at least she shuts him up for a minute.
She forces him to see himself through her eyes, not as a god or a king, but as a self-righteous nuisance who probably doesn't know how to recycle.
Let's talk more about Agnes's decision at the end, because she could have run. Elise offers her a clean out.
A safe place to stay. Elise says, "Come stay with me, leave the cats," which to Agnes is an impossible choice.
She looks at Clowder, she looks at the new kittens.
And it solidifies her definition of home. Home isn't a building, it's where her responsibilities are. She can't abandon them any more than she could abandon a part of herself.
And she also realizes that Havelock, for all his world-ending power, is kind of manageable.
He's hiding from his sister. He's terrified of cats. He needs Agnes to cover for him with the police. He needs her.
She holds all the leverage.
Exactly. She realizes in that moment that she is indispensable. And that gives her a power that he can't possibly understand.
It's such a satisfying turn in the story. The crazy cat lady becomes the boss.
In a way, yeah. She asserts her own form of order over his brand of chaos.
We have to come back to the cookie tin face again. Oksana's comment from the beginning.
Yes? You look like the woman on the cookie tin.
It's meant as an insult, or at least a warning. It means she looks naive, wholesome, out of place.
But it's actually her best camouflage.
It totally is. Who is going to suspect the cookie tin lady of harboring the world's most wanted Dark Lord in her basement?
No one. Not even a suspicious detective. Her wholesomeness is the perfect disguise for Havelock's darkness. They are, bizarrely, the perfect team because they are such complete opposites.
And I think Agnes starts to realize that. By the end, she's leaning into it. She's using her bake sale face to lie to the cops and get away with it.
She's weaponizing her own stereotype.
I love that. Weaponizing wholesomeness.
It's subversive. It tells us that ordinary people have their own kind of magic. The magic of resilience. The magic of just showing up and doing the work day after day.
And the magic of checklists.
Never, ever underestimate the power of a good checklist.
Seriously. She calms herself down after the dragon fight by making checklists. It's her primary coping mechanism, and it works.
It imposes order on chaos. And in a world filled with wild, unpredictable magic, order is the most precious commodity there is.
So what does this all mean for us then? Why do you think this story resonates so much?
I think it resonates because we all feel a bit like Agnes sometimes. The world is big and scary and chaotic. Goddamn magicians are blowing up the streets. The economy is tough. Rent is high.
And we're just trying to keep our cats fed. Or our plants watered. Whatever it is.
Exactly. We're just trying to maintain our own little corner of the world. We're trying to be decent. And this story tells us that decency is a strength. That sticking to your values, even when a dragon is eating your landlord in the next room, matters.
And that sometimes the scary things aren't quite as scary as they look up close. Sometimes the monster is just a guy in pajamas who really needs a tissue.
Precisely. It demystifies the fear. It makes it manageable.
So we've covered the eviction, the haunted shop, the battle, the relocation, the police raid, and Agnes's final ambitious decision. Is there anything important we missed?
I think we should mention Yannick one last time.
Yannick, the nervous landlord.
Who turns out to be Havelock's apprentice.
Which explains so much about why he was so nervous.
And why he was so bad at lying. He's new to the whole covering for a Dark Lord thing.
Havelock says something about him like, Yannick is Yannick. He has no secret identity.
Which implies that Yannick is just a guy. A normal guy trying to learn magic from the most chaotic, difficult master imaginable.
I feel for him. I hope we see more of him. I feel like he and Agnes would get along really well.
They could bond over their shared exasperation with Havelock.
They could form the support group for reluctant associates of the Witch King.
I'd read that story.
So I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Agnes Aubert's mystical cat shelter.
It's been a wild ride.
From the cobblestone streets of Montreal to the decks of the Rivenwood and back again.
With a brief, confusing detour through a bank lobby.
And don't forget the parsnips.
Never forget the parsnips.
It's a story about finding a home in the most unlikely of places. It's about the collision of the mundane and the magical. And ultimately, it's about the surprising, stubborn resilience of a woman with a checklist.
And a lot of cats.
52, to be exact.
Plus kittens.
Don't forget the kittens.
It's a full house.
So here is our final thought for you to chew on today.
We often think of power as being flashy, lightning bolts and dragons. We think of the chosen ones and the dark lords.
But Agnes Aubert shows us a different kind of power, the power of stewardship, the power of simply caring for something small and helpless when the entire world is burning down around you.
She doesn't have magic. She has responsibility. And in the end, that responsibility makes her the strongest person in the room. Even stronger than the Witch King.
Because he has nowhere else to go. And she is already home.
Exactly.
So here's the question we want to leave you with. It's a question about compromise and about survival.
If you discovered your landlord was a magical fugitive who could, accidentally end the world.
But the rent was cheap.
And the location was perfect.
And he let you keep 52 cats.
Would you stay?
Would you become the secret keeper for a monster just to keep a roof over your head and the heads of those you care for?
It's a much tougher question than it sounds on the surface.
It really is. Think about it. And maybe check your own basement for any suspicious-looking trapdoors.
You never know what you'll find.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.